What is up, Steeler fans? Well, hold on. Let's do this again. What is up, Steeler fans? Welcome back to another episode of the Steelers Hangover. This is not a hangover that we've been having for the last few weeks, one that we have been enjoying. This is one that's hitting kind of below the belt. I'm Daniel. Alongside with me, as always, Shannon White. Shannon, how are you doing on this sad Monday, Hangover Monday?
Well, I'm blessed. I guess I kind of learned to expect this. So 3 wins in a row was really nice. But I said after the last game, I said the game against Cleveland will tell us a lot. If this team has learned its lesson, if Tomlin's learned his lesson, and obviously not.
Yeah, obviously not. It is another day where the Steelers. It seems like it's the same song and dance because it is. I think there was a stat that was put out there. The Steelers are like 0-4, going up against teams that are sub 500 after 8 games into the season or something of that nature.
It's 0-4-1 against teams that are at least 8 games under 500 at the time of the game. At least 8 games under. That means you're really bad. Mm-hmm. And, that you're in the lottery, basically. You're picking a top, 7 pick. And the Steelers now going back to 2020 are 0-4-1. We call that the Tomlin special.
Oh yeah, it's special, that's for sure. It's like eating glue special. It's going back and forth, pounding your head into the wall and expecting something different. Miles Garrett said after the game that he felt like the Steelers were too busy trying to avoid the sack record, giving it to him versus trying to win the game. Did you feel that way after watching the game? I felt that way. Did you?
I said it after the first quarter. When they run the ball on 3rd and 4, I said, oh my God, they are obsessed with him not getting the sack record against them. Here's the thing, Daniel. All week long, if people were paying attention, every time they would talk to one of the Steelers, especially on the offensive side of the ball, it was, we got a plan. We're not going to let him get the record against us. Throw the ball away. Whatever. Do not let him get the record, because there's a real, Steeler fans and Steeler organization despise Miles Garrett. I mean, it's just the truth. I mean, there's nothing likable about the guy. I was explaining to my wife during the game. He's like Mark Gastineau. Mark Gastineau was fun to watch, but the guy was a total brick. I mean, he was a jerk. Nobody liked Mark Gastineau, the man, but, he was fun to watch play. Miles Garrett's the same way. There's no redeeming quality about Miles Garrett. Anybody could try to tell me one. I ain't seen it. The guy's a freak athlete. He is a freak athlete. I'll give him that. Is he a great football player? No. He's a good player on a bad team. But the Steelers despise him so bad. And he was saying before the game, they interviewed him right before he walked out, for kickoff. And he's like, they ain't going to stop me. I'm going to get the record. Well, no, you didn't. But guess what? Joke's on the Steelers, because they lost the game because they were overly focused on him instead of actually playing football. But again, as we said, 0-4-1. That ties the all-time record, and this is Tomlin, all his baby. It's the Tomlin special. We've grown accustomed to this. They just cannot be consistent. All the red flags and the issues this franchise has had under Mike Tomlin came out on Sunday.
I agree. It was horrible. I mean, the execution was bad as well. I thought Aaron Rodgers had one of his worst performances without giving up a turnover. There was certain plays where he chucked it down the field, on that 4th and 1, which was driving me nuts, the play calls, which, you go back and you watch the game, and I watched a few plays after the fact, and that one play where he chucked it up to Scotty Miller in the end zone on 4th and 1, was it Thielen's coming right across the middle, wide open for the first down.
But here's the thing.
Is that a
They've done
Rodgers or is
this.
that?
They've done this forever. And towards the end, Ben would chuck it up 1-on-1 on the outside. Because again, you got to throw outside because you don't want to risk anything getting tipped or thrown across the middle on it for a turnover. So if Ben was, he didn't have any offensive line. This team has one. Ben didn't have the tush push or Spartan or whatever the crap the Steelers call it. They'd already run it earlier in the game, and they put a new wrinkle to it, and Hayward got outside. But that was the perfect time, 4th and 1, do the tush push. And like I said, get Aaron Rodgers, line him up on the sidelines to get it, where a defender has to go with him. And make it 10 on 10 and go for the tush push. But why did he drop back and threw the ball down the field on a 50-50 at best ball to your shortest receiver? I mean, nothing this team does at certain times of the year makes any sense. It just makes no sense. And they know that goes back to coaching. And that goes back to who the leader in charge is. And you can blame it on Arthur Smith. We can blame it on Trelson. We can blame it on the players, but it all goes back to the man in charge. And it's too similar. The same stuff keeps happening.
Well, with Darnell Washington, him breaking his arm, and the title of the show, Mike Tomlin owns major real estate in his spheres. The guy lives constantly in his spheres. He rents out an apartment to himself in his spheres. He can't get out of it. Darnell Washington breaks his arm during the game. They don't do the push tush or the tush push because they don't have Darnell Washington to do the pushing. Apparently, nobody else on the team is qualified to push Connor Hayward's back end forward. I mean, like, how do you get past that? That is the epitome of living in your fears, to say, we don't got Darnell Washington to push Connor Hayward, so we're not going to do this play with, I don't know, why don't you use one of the swing tackles that you have is eligible, that go in motion, who have caught a pass, put them behind. I'm pretty sure they're good at pushing too. I'm sure they can push Connor Hayward forward. I just don't get it. I don't understand the thought process.
You got Why Black, you got Cam Hayward.
Yeah.
Boys that all they got to do is run and just basically pick his rear end up and throw him across the line, because that's what Washington does. I mean, it's just, again, there was absolutely no reason. I know Washington went out and that hurt, but every wart that this team has pops up at the worst time. I mean, everybody said, what are they going to look like without DK? If DK goes down, they've tried for 2 years, 3 years to get a quality receiver. Back when their best receiver was Dante Johnson, you don't really have a quality receiver. When your best is George Pickens, you don't have a reliable down on, because you never know if the knucklehead's going to show up or not. They just got things they've got to address, and they're going to have to finally address it after this season. And it's the perfect time to do it. But you need new leadership in charge if you're going to do that.
I hope so. There was some reports I saw on Twitterverse. I don't know how true or how much you can take this for what it is, but some of the other beat reporters and talking heads were mentioning that if Tomlin loses this game on Sunday, that there's a possibility he's not going to be the coach on his own accord, that he's going to leave on his own. I don't know if that's true or not, but I'd be ready for it. At the end of the day, the Steelers have positioned themselves again for, if they lose this game, they're picking 18, 19 in the draft, pretty far away from
the draft, like always.
On par. If they lose this game, they're 9-8, a game above 500, on par, with Coach Tomlin. And to me, the only way you're going to get into a position to get a good quarterback in the top 10 part of the draft is to trade up there. And you can have all these 3rd and 5th and 6th round picks all you want, but that's not going to get you to move up into the top 10 of the draft. You're going to have to give up future capital. You're going to have to give up future first rounders. And for one, I'll believe it when I see it, when it comes to the Steelers organization and doing something like that. And two, an easy way to do it is if you have a coach who's, on the contract, on the books, and can bring back some value like that too. Rumors have been the Giants if the Steelers can somehow pull that off and get up there, then I think that would be great. But I think at this point, that's wishful thinking. Do you think, just kind of going back full circle, do you think that if the Steelers lose this game against the Baltimore Ravens, that could be Mike Tomlin's last game as a head coach? Or do you think, regardless of the noise, regardless of the booing that's going to be happening, because if the Steelers lose this game, the fire Tomlin chants are going to be so loud in Acrisure Stadium this week. As loud as probably the fire Canada chants were. Do you think that there is a chance if they have another collapse at the end of the season like this and do not make the playoffs, that this could be his last game?
Get out while you still got a I don't want to say legacy because he really ain't never won nothing. I look it up. In any sport, he's 18, 19 years, the head coach.
Yeah.
Won one title. Made it to 2 games, but lost 1. And back at the very beginning of his tenure. How many other coaches in any sport is still around? But the whole point is everybody focuses on the non-losing season. But again, that's like kissing your cousin. You ain't accomplished nothing. That is nothing. There's no difference in 8-9 and 9-8, other than people say, "Oh, ain't never had a losing season." Yeah. You've never won a playoff game since 2016 or whatever. It's ridiculous. It is beyond ridiculous. He needs to strongly consider. There is no job security like being the Pittsburgh Steelers head coach. But for his own sake, for the sake of the franchise, this needs to come to a merciful end. And I'm serious. I don't care if they win Sunday. The only way that you're going to change my mind if they go all the way this year and win the Super Bowl, it ain't happening. I just think that it's time for a rebuild. There is no quarterback in this draft class I'd trade up. Give up more than 1 first-round pick to get? No. Nobody in this class. I would try to bring in a younger free agent or trade for a guy that maybe another team's willing to give up on. Maybe you get lucky, get a Sam Darnold, something of that nature. But again, this ain't the year. It wasn't the year that they picked Kenny Pickett either. But they tried. But that was because Kevin Colbert was going out and he was desperate. But, I could easily see a scenario where they lose Sunday and then Tomlin walks away while he's still got his reputation that is quickly being tarnished.
Yeah, because I don't see how it's going to change between if they lose on Sunday to the time, let's just say the draft happens. I guess they can go out there and sign some free agents and things of that nature and make things look real pretty, like they're going to be, competing again. But I feel like that bad taste is going to still be in their mouth, in the fans' base mouth. I know that all everybody could talk about was the 300 yards that the Ravens put on the Steelers, last year in the playoffs on the ground, all offseason. If there's a similar performance, I can see there being some disgruntledness at the draft. And I don't know if the ownership wants to deal with that. What kind of look is that going to be? You finally get, something in the city. It's televised. It's bringing in, fan bases from all over the place. And their first impression of the Pittsburgh Steelers is booing of the team because of the head coach. And at this point, you're right. I wouldn't want to trade up more than, multiple first round picks to get a quarterback. But this is what the Steelers have done to themselves by going out there and winning 9 games in a season and being mediocre in the middle of the draft. It's either you play, you tank, or not necessarily tank, but you either don't play, well enough to go out there and get a top 10 draft pick, or at least put yourself in position so you can trade up for that. And I think it's a pipe dream. What team's going to be like, all right, I'll take your 5th and 6th round pick for a first rounder?
No.
Like, come on now. You got 6 4th round picks. Well, we'll take that. That makes a lot of sense. Like, they're going to look at that and tell you, come on now, dude.
It's like the sports media, like the announcers during the game. Like, oh, he's a Hall of Famer, first ballot Hall of Famer. What are you going to put on the statue? Mediocre Mike? Yeah. Honestly, that's his great accomplishment. That's what everybody talks about. What else are you going to talk about? The guys he's developed in his coaching tree, non-existent. The guys that he developed that went to the Hall of Fame, no, he inherited guys. Guys he's actually developed have no legacy. You know why? Because they ain't never won nothing. It's just in ways he's one of the most overrated coaches I've ever seen in any sport. When he was coming off the field after beating Detroit, who just got stomped in Minnesota by a team with a third string quarterback who I think threw for like 30 yards or something. But anyway, Detroit fell apart with injuries and everything else at the end of the year. So the Steelers beating them, wasn't as great as we thought it was at the time. But when he was walking off the field and they had Aaron Rodgers on one side and I think it was Cam Hayward on the other, and he was a strutting and a preening and a look at what we did. Yeah. Because, he was humbled after they lost and then before the 3-game winning streak. Well, then he was super duper cocky. And I remember him coming off the field, and I told my wife, I said, I hope he don't end up regretting this, because if they come out and lay an egg against the Browns, he's going to look like because that's a Tomlin classic. That's a Tomlin special right there, to lose to the Browns. And they haven't beat the Browns since Ben retired.
Yeah.
In Cleveland. That's bad. It shows you Ben on the Browns, not Tomlin.
Yeah.
And but here's the thing. Yes, the Steelers desperately need a quarterback. But, it's more than that. You got to have the coach. You got to have the quarterback. You got to have the skill position, the offensive line. You got to be a complete franchise to win championships. And the Steelers have a lot of issues. But one issue I know that they can fix, because like you said, finding a franchise quarterback is extremely difficult. It's extremely difficult to find a top head coach. The Steelers have been really fortunate to have Dan Rooney, who found 3 of them. Back to back. But I guarantee you we can fix the head coaching problem to at least try something different. I think they've got the front office with Khan and Waddle taken care of. Ownership is harder to deal with. I mean, you got Jerry Jones. Like I said, Dallas ain't nothing changed as long as they got Jerry Jones. And we might have a similar problem with Art. We'll find out. But I know one thing they can fix this offseason, that's the Tomlin problem.
I wish, I strongly doubt that they will, but if they lose this weekend, I think the pressure will be at its all-time highest, and there's nowhere to fix it. It's not like they can say, all right, we'll come back next week, win the game, and we'll, let cooler heads prevail. Everybody will get over it. Winning fixes everything. This is it. This is the final game of the season, the regular season. It's win and go in. You lose, you stay home. And that's it. It's over. Goodbye. If that ends up being the case, I can really see that this become a situation where it gets really ugly really quick. We're going to take a quick break real fast. When we get back on the other side, we'll talk a little bit more about the game and everything else that happened. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after a few words from our sponsors. Hey, thank you for staying with us. Before we get back into the conversation, I want to remind you guys of our website, SteelCurrentNetwork.com, your one-stop shop for Pittsburgh Steelers news and coverage. Go check it out. While you're there, you can check out the audio-only podcast. If you're watching this on YouTube and that's the only way you catch Steel Curtain Network, you're missing a ton of content on the website and on where you find audio podcasts only, which include mine, State of the Steelers, that airs out on Saturdays at 11 a.m. So with that being said, back to the conversation. Yeah, I'm absolutely with you there, man. Mike Tomlin's going to go down as the NFL's best, okayest coach, being okay. And he's become, I hate to say it, but Shedeur Sanders, a guy that rode off the coattails of somebody that came before him, got his number, retired just because he had a winning record. And that's where we're at here. I mean, he's become Marvin Lewis. He's become the mediocre king. And I know a lot of people are going to look at us and say, I've seen in the live chat already, give him a chance, or let's see how it plays out. Let's finish it out. This has gone stale. This has gone old. And it's not just the fan base. You have former players that are coming out. You have um, keystone players, milestone players, Ben Roethlisberger. You've had James Harrison. You've had so many players who have had a pivotal role with this organization come out and speak against, or not nearly speak against him, but speak in favor. Maybe James Harrison against, but speak in favor of going away from Mike Tomlin at this point. And like I said, I think the message has gotten stale. I think the fan base is tired and they want something new, even if it results in something that is worse than what we've gotten. I think at a certain point, it's just time for a change. What do you think?
Well, I'm reading in the comments somebody saying, every time you talk about Tomlin, you're racist. So I don't know if that's what they're talking about, if we're talking about something else, but I just, that's why everybody's avoided telling the truth about Tomlin forever. I just didn't, even when I wrote articles, I choose my words carefully, because if you say anything bad, that's the first thing that's going to come up. Just like DK Metcalf and the whole situation. If you say, well, he needed to stay away from the sidelines, focus on football, and honoring the team that's paying him $40-some million, they didn't even try to take his guarantee away. And that shows you what kind of organization the Steelers are. But where did it? How we gonna get out from under making bad decisions? We're gonna say there was racism involved. So I mean, it's just too typical. I get so tired of it. I mean, you can't have a real conversation about anything, because there's a ton of coaches I'd like to have, and if they're a good quality coach, a brilliant mind, I could care less. They could be purple. Ben Johnson goes into Chicago, and he has made them relevant, fighting for. That was a heck of a game the other night, by the way. They come down to the last play, and those two teams were playing at a level I ain't seen the Steelers play since the Killer Bees. But that just shows you having two brilliant offensive-minded coaches and the talent. He's made Williams, so I didn't know Williams ever was going to be that good.
Mm-hmm.
He's made his. Williams now looks like the first pick of the draft. He looks like a guy that you build around. He looks like a younger Mahomes. The things he's doing, the throws he's making, the talent's always been there. He needed the coach. And so Johnson was a brilliant hire, and I wanted the Steelers to go after him big time. But you can't when you already got Tomlin in place. I mean, that wasn't going to happen. But you don't get those guys coming along that often. And it's hard to find a coach like that. But yeah, I'm just I just get disappointed, because I think we should have real, truthful, honest conversations about Tomlin, his competency, trying to let him be in charge of a rebuild, something he's never have to do, or been required to do, been asked to do. This has been kind of close, but they keep bringing in veterans to try to avoid completely committing to a rebuild. I mean, you give Cleveland credit. I don't want to sit here and not give Cleveland credit. Their draft was excellent. They really stocked their coffers, so to speak, with young talent. And I ain't even talking about Shedeur Sanders. I'm talking about everybody else. I mean, Jenkins, it was a terrible injury. But, you got Fanning. You got the linebacker who could be defensive rookie of the year. You've
Devin
got
Bush. Just kidding.
Huh?
Come on, Devin Bush.
No. Devin Bush awake. He wasn't even awake for half the games he played for us. So he was awake Sunday. But no, I'm just saying that Cleveland has got a younger nucleus of talent that and they're developing quickly. It takes the Steelers forever. I mean, here you have Valdez Scantling out there, and you throw him 3 passes in a row at the end of the game, even though there was other people open. it was just step back, third step, throw it to him because you don't want Miles to get a sack, heaven forbid. And they wouldn't even catchable passes. They weren't even in the vicinity. Whether the guy was the penalty on that last one, they saw. Everybody knows the refs swallow the whistle the last play of the game. They always do.
Mm-hmm.
In a situation like that, and because the NFL wanted this game. This is a playoff game a week early. This is the kind of game they want, and all the other divisions are pretty settled. So I feel bad about it going in. That the Steelers don't have a lot of chance. I didn't know they were going to come out and play scared to death like they did, but I just don't see the Steelers being able to leave Tomlin in charge of a rebuild. I just don't see any reason to have any faith he can do it.
I mean, at the end of the day, if they did, I think it's a big mistake because he's got 2 years left on his contract. Unless you're going in there thinking, all right, we're going to give him 2 years with a new quarterback, Kenny Pickett 2.0 situation, maybe not Kenny Pickett 2.0, the player, but the situation where we're going to give you a short amount of time to see if you have this guy. And if it don't work out, we're going to move on. Possible. Or it could be really like the Kenny Pickett 2.0 scenario where you have somebody who's walking out the door and picking your franchise quarterback without any accountability of that pick. And, I would hate for Mike Tomlin to go in there and say, all right, we're going to pick this quarterback and not work out. He's gone. And now we have another quarterback that we're bringing in. And now they're forced to work with that young quarterback that wasn't their choice. I mean, we've seen this song and dance with like the Bears, the Browns, all these other teams where they'll have a coach who's on his last leg, fixing to get fired, go out there, draft a quarterback to try to save their career. It don't work out, and now they bring in a new coach and try to make them work with the desperate choice that the previous regime chose. And it's not ever been a sign of winning football. I don't remember that ever being a situation that worked.
I can't think of a time.
Maybe Jackson Dart might next year. I don't know.
Well, it'll be a different coach.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, right? You have Dable, who was on his last leg, desperate to save his career, drafts a quarterback. Now they fired him. Now you have a new coach coming in, who's going to be force-fed Jackson Dart. The only difference is Jackson Dart kind of looks okay, but that's not going to be the new coach's choice. You know what I mean? You're going to have to go in that situation. And so Jackson Dart has an opportunity to prove us wrong, but I don't know of a scenario where a coach on his last leg, desperate enough to, draft a quarterback so that it saves their career, where that scenario turned around for the quarterback, the next coach the following year. Maybe I'm wrong.
No, I think you're right. I can't think of one either right off the top of my head.
So, but if they go around doing it that way, it's another ways possibly of a first round pick. And that's what I think has really hurt this team over the last, I don't know, since TJ Watt got drafted. First round picks haven't been a slam dunk. I mean, Trofa Atanu has been the closest thing since then to maybe have said, hey, all right, that's a good first round pick since TJ Watt. And he also missed majority of his first 90% of his first, his rookie year because of injury. Mm-hmm. And so, you got to hit on those things. You're right. When you look at teams like even the Browns or whoever, where they got young players and the Steelers are filled with Band-Aids and eventually they're going to fall off. And
definitely.
And I think it's already happened.
You look at the 49ers, their rebound, and the game that Purdy had, Brock Purdy. Again, it looked like Brock Purdy, the shoe had fell off Cinderella. Everybody thought, well, that was a magical run, but it's kind of over now. Well, Brock Purdy goes out and gets healthy. Matt Jones filled in for a while there, but Purdy's taking the 49ers to the next level. They're looking a lot better. And, they've got a scenario they can stay at home all the way through the Super Bowl if they get that number one seed. And, again, it takes a certain mindset for a coach to develop a quarterback. Those are really close relationships. It's almost like a father-son relationship for the ones you see that have developed. Andy Reid and Mahomes, Joe Burrow, and I can't think of the coach for them. But you look at the Matt Stafford with McVay. You look at there's just, and of course Stafford was already developed when they got him, but I mean he's developed that offense and taken it to a level that Goff never did. So there has to be that kind of relationship, and Tomlin can't have that kind of relationship with a quarterback because one, he's super conservative. He tells them don't make mistakes, but he's not an offensive minded coach. Mm-hmm. So he can have the relationship, but he's got to have that super strong offensive coordinator. Well, those guys are hard to get because nowadays, if a guy's a great offensive coordinator, he gets a head coaching job somewhere, aka Benny Johnson. So, yeah. I mean, it just, the Steelers have got to think long and hard this offseason of what direction they're moving forward. And it's time. I think that's why they did it the way they did it, like I've said before, with all the one-year contracts and letting guys move into the last year of their contract without extending them. Because it's time to make a lot of changes.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's time. You're definitely right. I think the defensive side as well, we'll kind of transition to the defensive side of the game. They only allowed 13 points, but the way Shedeur Sanders was throwing the ball in the first quarter and that touchdown throw he made, they really shouldn't have allowed very many, especially that touchdown. He was throwing ducks in the wind.
The interception, Herbig had a walk-in touchdown.
That's true.
Now Sawyer caught the ball, and he got caught from behind, but he had to kind of hesitate, and he tried to let a blocker get in front of him. But Herbig, that was a pick six. All he has to do is catch the ball that was right to him, and he's just going to walk in the end zone. And he just dropped it. That was a monstrous play. The 4th down and 1, and that terrible call. And I hear everybody blaming Arthur Smith. Listen, a lot of the plays is something that Aaron Rodgers makes the decision.
Yeah.
And the pass interference on Cam Hayward, where he's holding an offensive lineman off with one arm and wrapping his arm around Sanders with the other arm, and his moment, where he's hold of him, he falls on him, and they call roughing the quarterback. Again, that referee crew is awful. And we knew they were awful coming into the game. And, of course, it did end up biting the Steelers on the rear. But, again, we can make all these excuses of things that did happen. But the bottom line is this is typical when you get a Tomlin special. It just happens all the time. At least every other year you get one of these just total stinkers, and that's what we got.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the total stinker is an understatement. But yeah, you're definitely right on that. It was a Tomlin special. Now defensively though, Herbig, he had the almost pick, but he didn't really show. He didn't come out at much. He wasn't a factor outside of that. Highsmith, I thought, had a really good game.
Highsmith had a great game. Yes.
I don't know if TJ Watt's going to be back this week or not. It'd be, if the Steelers want a chance to win, in my opinion, it's going to be very pivotal that he plays. The running game from the Baltimore Ravens has been rejuvenated. They've started to actually give the ball to Derrick Henry more often. And so they're not going to pull away from that. And unless Lamar Jackson is playing, then they might. But if Huntley's in there, they're definitely going to continue to give him the ball and run the ball. I'm actually more concerned if Huntley plays than Lamar Jackson does at this point, just because I know that they're going to try to put the ball in Jackson's hands and they're going to take the ball away from Derrick Henry, which would work in favor of the Pittsburgh Steelers. But, defensively, I think they're going to need TJ back. The secondary, man, Clark, he's a liability for the secondary. The Steelers need to figure out or need to get healthy, whether it's Echols, whether it's Pierre coming back. so that they can put Ramsey back in the safety position. I think that is the role that he needs to be in. Uh, since he's moved out, I mean, although they only allowed 13 points and they played well and they kind of figured out Sanders, I feel that had, Ramsey played safety the entire game and they had Pierre out there, uh, I just feel like they probably would have even allowed less points out there on the board. Um, do you think some of these guys are going to come back, or you think this? I mean, I know it's injury stuff, but I felt like some of these guys may have gotten the week off just because of the comfortability aspect. I think maybe they felt that they were going to be able to handle this game without him. I think they're going to need him this week. Do you think they come back?
I would hope. I mean, because if you don't play this week, you're going to have a whole off season to rest up and heal up. And I mean, again, I don't see this team going anywhere. It's probably a one and done, even if they make the playoffs. Because any team that's making the playoffs can beat the Steelers. I can tell you that right now. Because let's don't kid ourselves. The Ravens are not very good either. The AFC North's awful this year. The Steelers aren't any good, and the Ravens aren't any good. The Ravens are supposed to be better than they are, but they just don't seem like they got it together. The worst thing I was afraid of is what did happen. They figured out that we're better if we just hand the ball off a ton of times and let Henry do his thing. And the Packers act like they never watched Henry play before. They were not prepared. Instead of selling out to stop Henry and let them beat, throwing the ball with Huntley, no, they act like they'd never seen the Ravens play before, which makes you almost think the NFL scripted because it sets up this. Because, you can see it coming. I mean, we left the house with a game after the first two drives, and I said, the Packers are just letting Henry do whatever he wants. They're going to lose. And come home, they'd lost. And so, I mean, it was just, and then I told my wife, I said, Steelers are going to come out and they're going to play a stinker tomorrow, Tomlin special. And it's going to all come down to the last game of the year, prime time, which the Steelers have sucked in prime time. If it ain't Monday night, they suck. And now they got to play on prime time and end up losing. And everybody will say, well, you never had a losing season. It's just the same narrative over and over and over. And sure enough, so far it's all played out. And unless something drastic happens, Washington's broke arm. He ain't going to play. He's probably making a career decision because, I knew a guy that had a collapsed lung, not from an accident during, therapy. He had an actual collapsed lung and he missed like 2 weeks of work, just regular work. So I can't imagine, what coming back and being 100%. It would be good if he could get out there. He's better than some of the backups, but he ain't Watt anymore. Let's just be honest. He owns one of the worst contracts in the NFL right now. And if you don't believe me, look at the other guys making over $40 million playing defense and tell me if Watt ain't the worst contract amongst the defensive players. Because he's never going to be able to live up to that contract. Because just like JJ, he ain't going to be able to stay healthy long enough and be what he once was ever again. Father Time's undefeated. Yeah. And I don't know how they're going to get out from under that contract. Maybe if they eat some of it, some desperate team will give them some. I don't know. But it's just time for a change. It's time to start to rebuild. And I honestly can't – I haven't heard enough about what guys are even showing up to practice. We'll know a little bit more tomorrow. And then maybe we'll have more of an idea who might play this week. But we know DK can't play. And if Rodgers can't do better than he did Sunday, he has nobody to throw to a wide receiver.
He really doesn't. And I don't know if there's anybody that you can bring up. I mean, I know some folks were thinking about maybe Alan Lazard, bringing him in because of his familiarity. But the thing is, Alan Lazard couldn't get on the field either. I mean, he was in the same boat as Marquez Valdez-Scantling. Nobody wanted Scantling. He was on the practice squad. He was on the Steelers practice squad for a long time too, until here recently. So it's not like, in fact, Adam Thielen was promoted before him and got more playing time. before Scantley. So to me, these are guys that are over the hill. I mean, let's call it what it is. They've been on the on the downhill spiral for a while now. These aren't spry young guys that are ascending in their career. This is the descending portion of it. You lose a guy like Darnell Washington. I mean, when Broderick Jones went out and they had to utilize Anderson as the tackle, and they couldn't do the swing tackle stuff with him anymore, they struggled. They couldn't figure it out. They stopped doing it with Darnell Washington out there too. They can't figure out what to do because he was such a big part. I don't understand why. It's not like it seems like they're running the most complex of plays or designs or concepts. It seems pretty elementary and basic, to be honest with you. This isn't a McVay offense or a Johnson offense from the Bears. It's very, very much simple. I mean, to me, it's not too far off from Canada at this point, with some of the decisions and some of the play calls. But I don't know, man. I have no faith in this offense is going to be able to go out there and do anything. The defense, I think they're the most fortunate thing about the Steelers going up against the Ravens this upcoming weekend is that the Ravens defense isn't as good as the Browns defense, and they don't have the pass rushers on the outside. And so Rodgers should have a little bit more time to throw and go through his progressions. But if I'm Baltimore, I'm applying a lot of pressure on Kenneth Gainwell and Jalen Warren and attacking everything up close. I have no confidence that the Steelers are going to be able to attack down the field and attack with any amount of consistency. So, I mean, I think it's going to be a long day. And if the Steelers end up losing this game, how much weight is that on DK's shoulders for his suspension and everything that came down at the end?
I think the Steelers supposedly are not going to try to take away any of the guaranteed. I mean, that doesn't mean they cut him. That doesn't mean he doesn't play next year or he takes a pay cut. Just the guaranteed aspect. Take that word out. I thought for sure they would do that. Because, see, that means you got to keep your head in the game. No more stupidity. No more, losing focus, altercations with a fan or something else stupid off the field. I thought that was a good thing to take that away. And they're like, no. Now, I remember when Ben got in trouble and the Steelers, were going to trade him.
Yeah.
And he come to the Roonies and he begged them not to. We seen him change. We seen it worked out. The Steelers made the right decision. Was this the right decision? Only time will tell. I think that that there has to be some accountability. But I thought for sure it would be when they said a 2-game, they'd appeal and they drop it to 1. Then he could have played this week, but they didn't. And it's crippling. It is really crippling. That the station, there was guys that are going to be playing in the playoffs, Jacoby Myers, Shareed for the Saints, different guys that the Steelers were interested in, and they were like, we don't want to go to Pittsburgh.
Mm-hmm.
They openly said, I do not want to go to Pittsburgh. And, another thing, Daniel, I got to say is I thought, Cook again played a good game. He showed a lot more mobility and able to slide and get in front of Garrett, even though they were chipping Garrett constantly. Cook did a decent job for a guy who was, third string at one point and, practice squad got another. So I like his potential, but why did they move away from Warren? Now, I know Gainwell has been very good. In my opinion, I would have kept Gainwell out there at receiver in the slot or moved him in the backfield, swung him out, used him every play, not just running back. And I would have had Warren out there also. because that's your two best weapons with Metcalf and Washington out. And I'd have them both on the field. And Warren was having some good chunk runs. You know, he was really moving the ball when they were giving him the ball. He just didn't get the ball enough.
Yeah.
And in a game where they struggled to throw the ball at all, every time they threw the ball, they were doing the Browns a favor.
Yeah, I don't know why they were going away from things at work. You know, I assume because Kenny has had a good year that they wanted to try to get that going for Kenny Gainwell. But yeah, if you have something that works, why go away from it? But that's been a constant problem, not even with just this team, but that's been an Arthur Smith problem. You know, the way he handles personnel has just been mind-boggling, and I think it's also getting to Aaron Rodgers. I mean, he was visually frustrated, and you know, I think they wanted a sub on a certain play, and he ended up getting like a first down because or got a penalty and got a free play out of it, and he was yelling at the sideline. I think even Romo was saying something to the effect that he's kind of yelling about them wanting to always sub and move things around. And he's kind of telling them, I got it. I can take care of it. And so I don't know. I mean, at some point I kind of wondered, was some of the decision making and things of that nature was that because he was told to not change plays or whatever the case may be, and kind of like maybe his frustration was like, I know what I'm doing. Also, you got to trust me. You know, at this point, who do you trust more, Arthur Smith or Aaron Rodgers with the decision making on the field? I kind of want to lean towards Aaron Rodgers at this point, but then again, he has a game like he did last week where he's throwing on 4th and 1 a go route to Scotty Miller, your 4th, 5th wide receiver on the depth chart. I don't know, maybe not.
It kind of reminded you of when he checked out in the Chargers game.
Yeah.
You could kind of tell when he's not fully committed. And I think because part of the problem the whole game was, and Miles Garrett said it, is don't give up the sack. You know, I don't want to be the guy to give Miles Garrett the sack record. I didn't care. I'd have let him got it in the first quarter. Get the freaking thing out of the way. He'd have quit. He'd have spent so much time celebrating, he'd have quit.
That's true.
And just go out and play the game. Play to win the game. You win the division. You rest the guys this week. All these injuries. You let Will Howard get some snaps in. You know, Rodgers can sit back. But no, they blew it. And now a team that's been terrible at home in prime time, if it's not Monday night, has got to play prime time Sunday night football. You know, in probably, you know, winter conditions. You know, we're even seeing Boswell shaky.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. That was the last thing.
It's like the most reliable offensive weapon for the Steelers for quite some time. You know, now it's like, don't get a case of the yips now.
Yeah. I don't know what's going on. I know the first kick he had, there was a bobble.
Yeah.
You know, Carlos Waitman almost pulled a Tony Romo, dropped the ball, was able to pick it up and put it down. I thought he was going to miss it, and then it just kind of curled in, and then he missed one from a little bit further out. You know, he's got some problems at that stadium. Fortunately, he doesn't have to play there again for this rest of this season. Hopefully the season's longer than one game left. But yeah, it's going to be wintry conditions. More than likely, it's going to be cold. It's going to be, you know, a night game. We'll see how things go. You know, crappy game overall. Kind of knocks everybody back down to earth, so to speak. I think a lot of us were getting a little too excited with what they were doing the weeks leading up. With rightfully so. I mean, they had the Miami Dolphins, who now, I mean, they just beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They got spanked the week before against the Bengals, but going into that game against the Steelers, they were on a 4-game winning streak.
Yeah.
You know, the Lions were up and down. You know, they're not knocked out, but they were up and down, and they were doing, you know, when they were on, they were doing fairly well. And so you also had the Ravens and a team that was also kind of, you know, getting back into it, kind of clawing themselves back into contention for the AFC North, and look where they're at now. They're back in it. And so you had these wins that, you know, although now, don't look maybe as impressive as they were at the time, but at the time they were impressive wins, and hopefully they can get back around the corner. We'll see. Um, last question: do you think this is going to be the final game of the season?
Well, I had the feeling, like I said, after what happened Saturday night, and we were leaving church, and usually I'm really excited to get back home and get ready for the 1 o'clock games, and I just wasn't. I just had this feeling, man. All the talk going on, it wasn't focused on winning the division, winning the game, getting the rest. It was talking about Miles Garrett, and DK, and were they going to take his guarantee money? I've heard everything talked about, and then I see now, like I said, how Tomlin acted after the Detroit win, and I'm just like, oh man, that don't bode well. So I keep trying to find reasons to believe. It's only the next day. Maybe as the week goes on. But I just don't have a good feeling about this one. I have a feeling we might be watching the last game of this year. Hopefully watching the last game of Mike Tomlin. And like I said, I just want to see a young team. I want to see some innovation. I want to see development. I want to see sustainable improvement. I can take growing pains as long as I see potential for sustainable improvement. But there's no growing pains with old guys. Old guys have got to have it then because they're not getting better. They're getting older.
Yeah.
You want to have guys you can develop. I don't know if anybody else plays Madden, but one of the fun things is the franchise settings where you can draft and develop and, see that. And it's, what we grew up doing, watching is teams develop young talent. Because back in without free agency, guys were around longer.
Yeah.
And, but it just, I never see any development going on. I mean, like, how can Roman Wilson be worse than Valdez-Scantling? I was hoping to add, I think that he has a place. I think Thielen has a place at wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4, wide receiver 5. If you got a guy to take attention away, like a DK Metcalf and a Pat Freiermuth, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But when these guys have to go up a rung on the ladder, and now Adam Thielen's your one, and MVS is number 2, and I don't even know who they would consider number 3. You just don't have any receivers.
Yeah, no, you're right. And I don't know why Roman Wilson is so far down on the depth chart. He I don't know, maybe he tried the same trick that Dan McCullers was using and didn't work out for him.
I don't know.
The opposite is happening.
He must be awful if he can't do better than that.
Yeah, he must have done something wrong. I have no idea, but guy can't get on the field unless he's blocking, and that's about it. Well, this season's coming closer to an end. There's one game left. I'll be rooting my team on, despite everything I said. I hope they win. I hope they have another game to play, and I hope they win that game too. I'm going to continue to cheer for my team throughout this process, but I'm frustrated, and I'm sure most of you guys are watching this performance, guys and gals, watching the performance of this team and the mediocreness and just kind of the same thing over and over again. The unwilling to throw over the middle of the field, the unwilling to stick to what's working. Going away from Jalen Warren in the running game and so much more. The same problems that we've had. Falling to not even a mediocre team, falling to a poor, crappy team that's fighting for position in the top 10 of the draft. I mean, that's sad. That's horrible. But it is what it is. Hopefully the Steelers bounce back. If not, I anticipate a lot of chanting and boos this weekend in Acrisure if the Steelers can't bounce back. Shannon, when are you coming back on? Let everybody know.
Okay, with New Year's Eve being Wednesday, I was told today that we're going to try to shoot for 6 o'clock. Not 8 o'clock, our normal time slot, but 6 o'clock Wednesday afternoon for Pump Your Brakes. So it should be really interesting. You know, after the press conference tomorrow and the news that comes out between now and then, we'll see if my opinions have changed any. If I have any more hope than the lack of hope I have right now.
Yeah, we'll see. I'll watch, and then you'll catch me, guys, on State of the Steelers on Saturday at 11 a.m. before the Sunday night game, previewing the upcoming matchup, the season finale, the home game against the Baltimore Ravens. Well, that's going to do it for us tonight, guys. Please like, comment, subscribe. You guys know what to do. Shannon, take us out, my man.
One more thing. Our beloved Afton, it will also be on Wednesday afternoon at 6 with Pump Your Brakes. So everybody tune in, and me and Afton did our first podcast together last week on Christmas Eve. So everybody be there.
That is awesome. That is awesome. I'll be definitely tuning in. If the Steelers make the playoffs, I'll be at the 50-yard line sitting next to Afton, and with my wife, Afton, and her mom will be there at the game as well. We already got our tickets set up.
Oh, so you and Kathy too. That's awesome.
Yes, so it'll be great. All righty, Shannon, take us out, my man.
All right, see you, everybody.